Thank you, JD. For me, this is really, I'm very glad to be back here again to talk about the black bass, because just about exactly a year ago, I was here talking about the black cats. These two squadrons in Republic of China Air Forces are two very unique squadrons because they are working directly with the CIA of the United States. They're taking order directly from the US. So normally they were saying this is around noontime to about 4 o'clock, they will get the telegram from the United States. Okay, tomorrow's target is so-and-so, then they get ready. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about the black bats. And this is what I'm going to talk about. First I'm going to talk to you about the historical background, and then the various operations that they had during the roughly about 20 years of operation. And lastly, I'm going to talk about what they did and what they mean to us. Okay, historical backgrounds. Okay, this is right after the World War II, the Japanese surrendered. It actually did not bring the long way to the peace for the Chinese people, because the Communist Party and the nationalist government started fighting right after that. So they wanted to control the China system. They're going to go with the democratic government or we'll go with the communists. And then after 4 years of the heavy fightings, then they have to say it's the communists won. And to come to think about it, did the communists ever lose? And so the Chairman Mao announced the establishment of the People's Republic of China in October 1st, 1949. So what he did is they actually adding people to the original country's name. The original country name founded by Dr. Sun Yat-sen in 1911 was Republic of China. So he added the people in front of it to emphasizing how this new government value the people. But guess what? After he added the people to the country's name, people start to flee. A lot of people that remember this thing here, the Saigon in 1975, when the collapse of South Vietnam, people tried to get out of there. If you take this and multiply the magnitude by about hundreds and thousands, then you will see this is what happened in 1949 in Shanghai. The people tried to flee the mainland China, going to a tiny island called Taiwan. And for this the presentation, I want to make the clarification before I go forward, because if I talk about the Republic of China, People's Republic of China, then people will get confused. So I'm going to refer the People's Republic of China in mainland, just China, and the government in Taiwan, the Republic of China, just as Taiwan. Okay, at the very beginning, since the United States wants to give the full diplomatic recognition to the new government, because they thought the Communist Party was the peaceful land reformers. All they wanted to do is just to redistribute the wealth of China. But not too long after that, just 7 months after the establishment of the new country, the Korean War started. The Chinese governments not only helping the North Koreans, they actually sending the troops to fighting with the North Koreans against the United States and the South Korean. From this propaganda, the leaflets you can see is a kick the American dogs out of the Korean peninsula. And then it happened to the northern part of China. In the south, they also say we shall liberate Taiwan. So the new country is not only involving the fighting, so they wanted to conquer lands, to kick the American influence out of the Asia. So this is really the American puzzle. So what happened there? So this is not the peaceful reformer that we thought that they are. So what happened there? And at that time, the Chinese government had this closed door policy. So very difficult for a foreigner to go in there or for the Chinese people to get out. So from the outside, you really cannot know what's going on there. But this is after, especially after the Korean War, the Chinese was become one of the potential enemy of the United States. So if you go into war with China, so you really want to know more about that. So how are we going to do it? If we cannot see it from outside, how are we going to do it? So they said, if we cannot see it from outside, we're going to see it from the top. This leads to the black cats. You know, during the 50s and 60s, the black cats pilots from the Taiwan, they actually using the RB-57 A models and D models. And then finally they use the U-2s. They go deep into China. In every corner, they're taking the aerial photography for the United States. So they're getting all this, so they know where they have a new airport, where they have the nuclear test plans. So they have all the information. But even after all this information I'm getting, says, the United States, okay, after we can see it, we want to hear it. But when I say hearing it, it's not just to hear what they talk about. It's actually wants to know what kind of the radar site that what radar they have and what frequency that they use. That's in case, because the photograph will show them where's the military installation. So in case then we have to bomb them to send in the B-52s, so they know where to drop the bombs. But later on, so this is what's going in there, so you have to blind all the radars, so you have to know what kind of the frequency that they use. So that leads to another joint operation between the CIA and the Taiwan Air Force. That's the 34 Squadron Black Bats. From the symbol, you can see they use the black bats because they will only go out at night. And then right below that, you have to see the Big Dipper. So they can only go out at night. So they can see this. All their missions was conducted after nightfall, and they come back to Taiwan in the morning. And this is the various aircraft the CIA that provided to them. They're starting from the PB-4Ys, P-2Bs, P-3s, and RB-17s, and C-123s. With all those aircraft, sometimes with the different characteristics, they perform different missions. And the very first one I'm going to talk about is the Operation Foxhound. That's in between 1955 and 1956. They used the aircraft, the P-4Ys, was unarmed because all the machine gun on the aircraft was removed, and it was going there unescorted, going to China at night. Totally, they conduct 14 missions between August 1955 and April of 1956. And at that time, because the communist air defense was at its infant stage, so they have trouble to defend the night intruders. So all of the mission was flown successfully, and no airplane was lost. But this situation was changed very soon, because they started to getting the aircraft that can do the interception at night, and also getting the new radars. So next one, they get into the RB-17 operations. Normally, the people in the United States, they only know the B-17s. When they say RB-17, they say, what is that? It says, okay, they remove all, like the PB-4Ys, they remove all the machine guns from the airplane, they remove the bomb racks, and they're putting all the electronics at the workstation there. That's why this is called the RB, the reconnaissance version of the B-17s. So each aircraft, they have 14 crew members, and the mission commander, and 2 pilots, and 3 navigators, and 3 the electronic warfare officers. and 2 radio operators, 1 crew chief, and 2 loadmasters. And a lot of people ask me why they need a loadmaster, because they don't, carry cargoes and they don't drop bombs. Well, then what happened was, even this year we have Chinese in the China, the communists in the mainland, and the Taiwan in the Republic of China. They both fighting since they are. Each one of them claims they are the legitimate government of China. So the government in Taiwan. So every time the B-17s go into China, so they wanted to throw some leaflets to say this as well. We did not forget about you. We will come back. We will overthrow the communist government. So just patiently wait. And then they also during the famine years of China. So they will, when they doing the electronic intelligence gathering, they also will throw some of the relief packages that's like rice, candies, and flowers. And each on the packages that was saying, so we never forget about you. So that's the reason they need the loadmasters. And this is taken from one of the logbook of one of the pilots. The top part, I would say this column is his rank, he's a captain. And then you can see that he's flying B-17s, C-46, and P-2Vs at the same time. This is probably the only squadron that requires pilots that flying the various aircraft in the same time. Because normally it's just like, as I understand, so each squadron, they only have their own aircraft. They never have to fly 3 of them for the combat missions. And the reason why they have to fly C-46s, P-2Vs and B-17s will go deep into China. And C-46 is just along the coastal area. And they call the mission go deep into China, they call Eagle, so the Eagle 121. And the one that along the coastal lines, they call the Robin. In this particular mission, I wanted to show you in the next page. They take off on February 26. You can see the takeoff time is 1600, and the landing time is 11:10. And 11:10 is not PM, 11:10 AM the next day. So the flying time is 19 hours and 10 minutes. This is the longest B-17 mission ever flown by any Air Force. But I'm always thinking about 19 hours and 10 minutes. That's just very long. So I don't know about you guys. Every year when I go back to Taiwan and taking the commercial flight from San Francisco back to Taiwan, that's only 14 hours. And on the seat is a cushion, very comfortable seats. But by the time when I get there, I was feeling very, very tired. And they have to fly for 19 hours. And this is not just flying, they have to fight all the time. Because the interceptors was trying to get up and try to shoot them down every step along the way. And this is the pilot that he actually flown that mission, Captain Zhu Zhen. Eventually, after he retired, he flew for China Airlines and flying the 747s later. And now I'm going to talk about one of the missions that I flown in May 29th, 1959. That night, the Black Bats, they dispatched 2 aircrafts. And one is a serial number 815, the other one's at the 835. And 815 was actually take off about half an hour earlier. And the moment the 815 penetrating the China airspace, then they started to hear the communist ground control interceptor and talking to the intercepting pilots. To their amazement, it says that they actually heard, it says, here comes the first one. So it's supposed to be a top secret night, to the mission. They have 2 of them. The moment the first one get in there, they actually heard this is the first one. So it says, probably the information was leaked. So but then after they going through this part area is a mountain area, so it's very difficult for the intercepting. So by the time they flew around this area here, the number 2 getting there around here, so they heard both of them, the number 1 and number 2, they heard the ground control intercepting actually tell them, let's forget about the number 1 now, let's concentrating on number 2. So the people, the crew member on the number 2, they said, oh, Jesus, But they actually number 2 was safely left China space about like right about midnight. But then for the number 1 is not that lucky. This is actually, I took it from the report of the communists. They are reporting back to their higher command to see how did they shut down this, the intruding B-17s. In the very beginning, it was seen as at night it's a nationalist Chinese RB-17 penetrating at nightfall. Then at 11:08, the MiG-17 they take off from Shanghai Airport, tried to intercept that. And 2 minutes after it took off, the ground control, the radar actually identified the B-17s at the 1,500 meters. That's about like 4,500 feet. And the speed is between 300 to 350 kilometers per hour. So that's roughly about 200 knots. And so after they see it, and then the intercepting MiG, he reported. He's actually using his onboard radar. He identified the B-17, which is ahead of him, about like 2 miles right ahead of him. And then as 20 minutes after it took off, he started firing. Right after the first firing, he reported the target's on fire. And he fired it again, finally the aircraft crashed in near Anping. This is the wreckage, and all crew members were killed. And during the RB-17 operations, they actually lost the 3 RB-17s. The one I just shown here, and one of them hit the mountain, was actually chasing by the MiG, so he could not turn anymore because they were flying right into the valley and hit the mountains. And the next thing is just going to the P2V operation. This aircraft was used the longest for the Black Bats for 10 years, from 1957 to 1967. This is the P2V. Is anybody can tell us what's wrong with this aircraft? What happened was that this aircraft was the Navy P2V model, and they have a U.S. Air Force marking in the front. And if you check the U.S. Air Force, they never used the P2V. And the U.S. Air Force, they actually give a new designation to it called RB-69A. And then if you go to the Air Force inventory, they have this aircraft marked, it says RB-69A, but none of the squadron ever used it. Because what happened was the CIA at that time, they did analysis of all the active aircraft used in the U.S. inventory. This aircraft is the most suitable for their espionage flight. So they wanted to buy this aircraft. The Navy called it P2V-7, but just to make it different from it, they called Lockheed called it 7U. And the CIA wants to buy it, but the CIA cannot directly just call up Lockheed and says, I want to buy a few of your aircraft. So they need it up front. So the Navy does not want to work with the CIA. So they have a turnaround with the U.S. Air Force. That's how the Air Force has given the new designation to RB-69A. And then they have the aircraft, the U.S. Air Force in the front, but the U.S. Air Force never used this aircraft. It's the same, each aircraft has 14 crew members. And the mission commander, 2 pilots, 3 navigators. The first one called nose gator. This is, sometimes you say, what is a nose gator? But if you look at this, they have a very clear nose here. So the navigator actually lay here, actually look out the front. So looking out the front at night, they flying very, very low. So the nose gator will actually tell the pilots, left, right, pull up. Just to avoid hitting something. That's called the nose gator. Then they have the Lorraine navigator. Lorraine navigator just they use the instrument Lorraine to track their current position. And the main navigators, they use the dead reckoning and also the celestial navigation. And the main crew for the whole flight is the 3 electronic warfare officers. They call the Raven 1, 2, and 3. You can see each one of them. They are processing different radar bands to record it. To record which radar at what position using what bands. And then you have one radio operator, one crew chief, and as always, they have the load masters throughout the relief packages. Okay, after the training in the United States was done in 1957, 56 areas, they are ready to go. But as they are ready to go, the comet is ready to intercept. You can see this is the drawing by one of the artists in Taiwan. Actually, this is, you can see the aircraft. The 2 intercept MiG-17s trying to shoot them down. And they did try the very closely. They tried to so you can see on this aircraft after one of the missions, you can see how badly the wing was hit. And this is the mission commander for this particular flight called he's the Lieutenant Colonel Li Defeng. And on this photo, on the back, he actually marking Chinese as a lucky that we made it back. So, but then says for the whole crew, they said it's a lucky that I made it back. But the really lucky one was him and him, because all the other was killed in the subsequent years. And the next one I'm going to talk about is one of the missions that was flown by this is the Lieutenant Colonel Yelin. Lieutenant Colonel Yelin and his pilot, Lieutenant Colonel Yin Jinding. And I'm honored to make the announcement that Lieutenant Yin Jinding's daughter and his widow is with us today. This is sitting in the front. So the mission that they flown was the November 4th, 1964. That night they took off from Taiwan and going through the southern part of China to getting all the information, to record that. And at the daybreak, they landed at the Ka in Korea. And according to the original plan, after this long night mission, they're supposed to rest for 1 day, then come back to Taiwan. But then it's the CIA headquarters, they have other plans. It's just because the weather condition and the new moon is just suitable for another mission. They want the other mission done fast. So they kind of like they're following their own SOPs, because each crew member not supposed to fly a mission within a week. So they asked the same crew to fly another mission, only have 1 day rest. So they took off from Ka. They're supposed to go into northern part of China and supposed to land it back there again. And this is also from the communist report that they shown at the night that they came approaching Liaodong Peninsula. at the night of November the 6th, approaching this way. So the communists, they actually have the anti-aircraft artillery ready, all this in here. And the aircraft is supposed to plan is to go this way, just go in there, just barely missed it. But so the communists, they set up a fake radar signal. They actually send out the signal here just to kind of like to misguide them, so they have the anti-aircraft batteries here. So the mission commanders make the decision to divert, but not knowing they flew right into the trap. They go in here, they turn on the moment they get in, you can see they've been caught by the searchlight. And 30 seconds after they sent out the signal, feet dry, the airplane was crashed, and everyone on board was killed. So this is the way that they use because the black bats, they always fly very, very low, so they can use, from the machine guns to the cannons, everything that they can bring it down. So besides using the anti-aircraft artilleries, they also use a new method that using the bomber right in front of them and starts dropping the flares. So it's literally to turning the night into days. So this make it easy for the chasing mix from the bats. They can to identify the black bats. This one they can actually show. This is their Illusion 28 bomber flying right in front of the P2V, and this is the chasing MiG. So you can see the P2V was trying to make all kind of turns, trying to avoid it, but they dropping the flares around here. So there's no way that they can turn. They can no way that they can run. But eventually the P2V was shut down there. This is the wreckage. But sometimes the table does turn around. The Lieutenant Colonel Dai, his P2V actually shook off two chasing Tu-2s and caused them to crash right into the hills. This is what happened was the nose gator. He reported right in the front. They have the hills. So Lieutenant Colonel Dai, he said he make the decision. Tell the back, okay, do not deploy the chaps now. So not deploying the chaps of the chasing MiG, they can actually use the radar to identify the real aircraft. So then after they fly passing the hills, he make a very sharp turn, and causing the MiGs just go right into the hills. So when they come back, they report on the crew member on the P2V. They actually report they can see the big fires, that's on the back. So they come back and they reported to say to the Air Force Chief of Command, says maybe that we should get the credit to shut down two of the chasing MiGs. But then the Air Force says, okay, where's the evidence? And there's no evidence. Not until the years later, just I think within the last 10 years, the communists, they start to publishing the books about I think by one of the air commanders saying how they protect the China sky from the intruders. He actually made the statements that on that particular night, two of the chasing Tu-2s crashed. So the crew member at that time is almost in their 80s. They took the book back to the Air Force, the Chief of Command, and says, this is the evidence, You know what the Air Force Chief of Command says? You can never trust the communists. During the P2V, the operations, 5 of them lost, 3 was shut down. And one crash actually was on a ferry mission between Taiwan and Korea, and crashing to a hillside near the KA. And one is missing over over Yellow Sea. Is they just before to penetrating into China, they're flying so low, they just crash right into the sea. The next we're going to talk about the P3As. The CIA, they introduced the P3 to Taiwan in 1966. From this photo, you can see that what's different from the P3 that we normally see was actually this here is the two air screw on the side. So this when they fly deep into China, so this is if right after one of the Chinese nuclear test blasts, they can going through the air, they can collect any of the nuclear materials that was in the fallouts. So based on that, they can see what kind of the material that they use. Okay, so this is something new. And then, see these two small pylons? This is for the Sidewinder missiles. So this is, for P3 to, actually carry 4 Sidewinder missiles. So for self-defense. But then at that time, the CIA started to realize the risk is no longer justified the rewards. So for about 6 months, they have the new aircraft to Taiwan. They just train the people. They fly a couple of the Robin missions, but never fly any Eagle mission deep into China. And then in early 1967, the CIA that they removed both the P2Vs and P3s from Taiwan. So that stopped the penetrating flying to China. Then they go into also the crew member for the P2s and P3s who was transferring to the C-123 in Vietnam. So when they go to Vietnam, they was no longer under the command of Taiwan Air Force. It was actually under the command of the U.S. Air Force in Vietnam. So they have a new name there. They call the First Flight Detachment. But they still have the Bat and the Big Dipper there. So while they were there, I talked to one of the pilots that when they fly the mission in Vietnam, they never wear the flying suit. They just flying with the regular street clothes, and they never carry any identifications. I said, "What kind of mission do you fly?" He says, "Well, they will fly to airdrop the U.S. Army and the Rangers and Green Berets deep into north." Then I said, "Oh, you drop them there." He said, "Well, to drop them there is not a big deal. To pick them up," I said, "How do you to pick them up?" He said, "They will set up a place so they know that place is relatively flat. So tell them at what time the C-123 will go over there. By the time they get over there, so they started to sending the electronic the code messages. If the returning messages that agree with them, so they will make a night landing and mark the airstrip flight spot. After they landed, they use the reverse to stop it very fast, turn around, lower. When they landed, they lower the ramp. So after they stop, turn around, maximum throttle, take off. It says, "Well, you don't stop." He said, "No, this is not American airline." So they just have to catch the time to jump onto the rear ramp. If you missed it, too bad. So this is the kind of mission that I've flown in North Vietnam. So during the C-123 the operations, the 6 were lost, the 3 were shut down, and 3 crashed in non-combat. And the last I'm going to talk about one of the very, very interesting missions that I've flown, Operation Heavy T. Operation Heavy T in the United States, it has not been fully declassified yet, but in Taiwan there has been. So this is all the information I got from the people from Taiwan. This is actually the mission that I flown in May 17 to May 18th of 1969. Even though the mission was conducted in 1969, the inception of this operation was long before 1969. It was actually rooted in the very first Black Cat operation in China. So during that flight, Captain Major Chen Huai, he identified after he landed the analysis, the intelligence analysis from the photo that he took, that identified one of the places, the Chinese nuclear test site. So at that time, so that's the first time the United States realized the Chinese is actually starting playing with the nuclear weapons. But so the American was puzzled. It says, according to their calculation, the Chinese does not have that capability at that time. So for the subsequent years, as every time the U-2 flying to that area, they started to taking the photos, so they can see they are getting ready. Then in October 1964, they tested the first nuclear bomb. And a few years later, they tested their first high hydrogen bomb. What puzzles the United States, they wanted to know what material does China use for this the nuclear weapon, and then what is the equivalent TNT tonnage of this nuclear weapon. So they desperately wants to know. So in order to find out the question that they ask, they have to use two instruments. One is the air sampling instruments, the other one is the earthquake sensing instruments. With this two instruments, you place right next to the test site. So after the test blast from the nuclear fallout, you can see what kind of the material that they use. And from the earth sensing, the instrument, they can see how hard the ground shakes, so you can know how powerful is the bomb. But then talk about, we have to send the instruments there. So how are we going to do it? Can you call them so that can we send the instrument there? So the issue is, how are we going to camouflage this the instrument, and how to remove the parachutes? Because after you have to use the parachute to throw in there. So the next morning, the Chinese people walk around and says, so what is this, right? And how are we going to place them in there? So take the CA's, much longer the time to try to make the planning. So for the first question is how to camouflage the instruments. What does it say that they use a big boulder? So inside it, they place the instrument right inside this boulder, and put this boulder on a parachute. Then they're going to airdrop that. Then how to remove the parachute? The next morning is maybe people say, okay, here's a boulder. Yeah, but why the boulder has the parachutes, right? So they developed a very little explosive packages. So they put it onto the canopies and also on the parachute cords. So the moment the boulder hits the ground, it will trigger the firing mechanism and actually blow the whole parachute into pieces. And they hopefully that after the whole night the wind was blowing, the next day you don't see anything. Well, that's their plan. And next is how to place that. Okay, the only thing that they can do is the C-130. But then come other questions: who's gonna fly this aircraft? Well, this is a no-brainer to give it to the black bats. But then the black bats, they've been flying the B-17s, P-2Vs, PE-3s. They just don't have the C-130 experience. So in order to perform this mission, Taiwan is actually sent 26 crews come to the United States in September of 1968 for this training. So to the 26 actually consists of two cruises, 13 each. One is fly the mission, the other one is the spare. So for the trainings, the pilots, flight engineers, and the loadmasters were sent to the Air Force Base in Tennessee for the C-130 training. And the electronic warfare officers and navigators were sent to Nellis for their trainings. So after the pilots and they all get familiar with the aircraft, and the navigators, the electronic warfare officers get to know the instrument they're supposed to use, they were sent to Groom Lake for the mission-specific training. And Groom Lake was a very secretive base north of Nellis, and it was actually built by Lockheed in the early 50s to test flight the DU-2s. And the Chinese crew member, when they arrived there in 1968, they were saying is they will only fly their mission at night. So during the daytime, they was inside their room. They would tell us not to go out. And this is one day. This is during the daytime they giving the lectures. They heard some jet engine noise, which is different from the U.S. jet that they familiar. So one of the crew members, they just opened the window, the shade to look out. He says, "You can't believe it. There's a MiG-21 there." So they have a lot of things in the Groom Lake that we didn't know. So during the training, they've been given two new instruments. One is the terrain following radar, and the other one was night vision goggle. The terrain following radar was kind of like was set height above the ground. The instrument will actually coordinate with the autopilots who will make the airplane just maintain at a constant height right over the ground, very, very low. And the other one was a night vision goggles, so they can actually see at night. So the pilot who told me the story says, this is good, but don't use them together. Because he said that once you actually wear this and you actually see how close to the terrain in the front, he says you actually, I don't want to use the word that he said, very scary. Then it says the training says they've been flying all over the Grand Canyons. So when they try to fly there at night, try to airdrop the Mach, the instrument package, and the United States Air Force was sending the F-4s and the F-105 to intercept it. And it's up to the electronic warfare officer trying to deceive that, sending out fake the information to them, see if they can get away. So after the training in Groom Lake was completed, so they all were sent to the Sierra Mountains in Oregon for the survival training. When they go there for the survival training, so each one of them had a package in a backpack, had the pistol, a very sharp knife, and a few pack of the MREs and the meal ready to eat. And then it's a couple of pack of cigarettes. And they was very amazed to find out the package, the cigarettes that they had was actually from Taiwan. First they thought it was, the CIA really wants to cure this, for the nostalgia, But then, not too long later, then they realized that it's not for that. It's just in case that they actually get shut down over China, the CIA has nothing to do with them. So after the survival training, so they have the aircraft training, they have a mission training, they have a survival training, everything is done. So in the late April of 1969, they were sent by a charter flight left Travis to Hawaii to hold them to Okinawa. And Okinawa, so they've been told us that okay, we'll stay there for a couple of days for your R&R. And then we will after that, we're going to go back to Taiwan. So they was actually spend time there to relax. But at the night before they're supposed to go back to Taiwan, their leaders get them together, all the 26 of them, and make the announcements. There's a little plan change. So we're not going back to Taiwan tomorrow. We're actually going to to Thailand. We're going to fly the mission from there, and we'll go back to Taiwan after that. Okay, then since we're going to make the change, in order for not to have your family member to worry, why don't you write a letter to them to tell them that? So pass down the pencils, the papers, they start to write the letter. Then pretty soon the leaders realize some of the the crew member does not get the idea. They just say, listen, we're not going back to Taiwan tomorrow. So he has to make another statement. He said, well, if there's something that you wanted to make the arrangement, now is the time to make it. Then they say, oh, he wants us to write our will. So one of the pilots, that's the one that he told me about this. He said that he wrote a letter to his wife. He says, I'm doing a very important mission for the country. So if I fail to come back, please take care of yourself and our 2 little kids. And make sure when the kids grow up, they know what their father did for the country. So they went to, they was at the Taki Air Force Base. They just waited. They waited for the weather. So it's not really weather turning good. They actually waiting the weather to turn bad. So the D-Day was finally selected as May 17th. Because May 17th happened to be a new moon, so very little moonlight there. And then after lunch, all crew members will check out by the physician and psychiatrist to make sure they are ready to fly. And none of them was disqualified, so they don't have to call anybody from the spare team. And then it says right before the flight, it's just like they was telling to don't wear the flight suits, just wear the street clothes, and then have to remove all IDs. And the day before, they will actually ask each of them, says, what do you want for your meal for the night? So they actually give them just like the menu. And one of them says, he had to see lobster sandwich. It's okay, lobster sandwich. So he snacked it. So the next day he actually see the lobster sandwich there. But he says, through the flight, he says, you are so tense, so nervous. He says the only thing that he actually ate was a couple of tomatoes and a couple of can of Cokes. So this is what they did. At 5:11, they took off from Takley. Then they go into around about like at 6:30, they go into Burma. Then around 8:30, they go into China airspace. Before this point, they was flying around about like at 20,000 feet. So after they across the border, they dropped down to less than 1,000 feet. It says they crossed the border during heavy rainfall. So they were so, the co-pilot, he was sitting there. He's look at the propeller. It says like it was in the water, And then it says they penetrated going there. It says the aircraft has the automatic equipment there. We actually send out the position report every half an hour. It just happened the moment it crossed the border, that thing went malfunction. So it's not until about an hour and a half later did the navigator realize that thing's malfunction. So he has to manually send out the location report. So for the meantime, for an hour and a half, the people back in Takley, it says their face almost turned blue. So at 11 o'clock, they're approaching the target area. Then they make some preparations. Then just 2 minutes before midnight, they drop their first instruments. Then 2 minutes after the midnight, they drop another one. Then start to come back. And as they turn back, because they were flying so low, they can actually see the lights, of the villages right along their route. As they approaching one of the villages, the pilot said, all of a sudden the light of the whole town just turned black, just shut off. I remember when I was a kid in Taiwan, we have the air drill. So when you do the air drill, they have to, the main switch for the whole town, they shut it off. So at that time they thought, so they must detected us. So what they can do is just fly a little bit lower and just a little bit faster. There's nothing that they can do, but they're just very nervous. And it's not until years later that they realized what happened was, okay, this day, May 17th, 1969, if the memory serves you well, you can remember during the springtime of 1969, China and Russia had the border scuffle. So at that time, China was preparing going to a full-out war against China. So as they approaching that village, the light turned off. They actually was Chinese conducting the air drills. They shut down the lights. But that got the memorial wall. And then it says after they crossing back the border into Burma, they actually see some Elmo's fires on the wing tip, propeller tip, and also along the edges of the cockpit window. And people know the St. Elmo's fires actually was discharging of the static electricity. That causes some of the electronic equipment to malfunction. The first thing was the navigation equipment was out, but that's not a big deal. So they can use the reckoning and all, and also with the ADF that they can find their way back. But a few minutes later, just about to leaving the area of the Burma, they realized their fuel gauge was acting funny. Sometimes it shows them to have a 400 gallons, sometimes it shows 0. So that's to make the mission commander says, okay, now we're not going to take our chances. We're going to find the first one that we're going to land. So instead of they flying back to Taipei, they actually just landed in Chiang Mai. So after they landed in Chiang Mai, they find that because they also make the announcement back to the Taipei, said they're going to divert there. So the U.S. Air Force was sending the C-130 there just to wait for them. After they landed, so it was surprised to see their instructor back in the United States was there to welcome them, because one of the instructors told them, says, "And tell the truth, we never expect you can come back alive." So this is quite an emotional moment there. That the mission accomplished when they got back. Reflections. We're going to talk about how this black bass, what they did back in the 50s and 60s to affect us. First, the CIA, they obtained the precious, the electronic information throughout China, the black bat helped them to get it. This is what they did for the United States. But for Taiwan, what Taiwan gets, Taiwan gets is, under the military assistance programs, they keep receiving the new batch of the aircrafts. So the F-104 was just received in Taiwan. You can see this is the United States designation, still there, the EF. So they keep all the from the 50s, 60s. Wow. Oh. So under the military assistance programs, the United States keeping supplying Taiwan with the defensive weapons, the aircraft, the Navy vessels, the Army tanks. But throughout this process, the American get what they wanted, the Taiwan gets what they wanted. In the process, those people get killed. So when you look at it, it's not just one man, so it's each man behind each of the photo, there's a family there. They have families, they have wives, they have kids. And because throughout the years I have known some of them, because the pilot is no longer alive, so I talked to their kids, the widows. One of the kids was actually telling me, says, throughout his life, the only father that he knows was the one that hung on the wall. And this is, as I have a kid, I remember I have to take the kids to the school games, to take the summer vacations, all that. They don't have a father. So they kind of sacrifice their own life. They actually sacrifice their family's happiness. And going back in times, we have we have a long history of working together towards a common goals. During World War II, the Flying Tigers was fighting against the Japanese in China, and also after the Doolittle raid, the thousands of Chinese were killed, trying to help the the raiders out of the occupied land. And then during the Cold War, the time frames, the black hats and black bats risking their life trying to obtain the valuable information for the United States. So we really come to together with, we should. This map is something new. Excuse me. But anyway, just talk. What they did is we should not forget the two countries that work together throughout the years to have what we have today. And then this is one last book to use. This is all the histories, that reminded us what they did. And then for conclusion of today's presentation, I wanted to use one of the poems that written by one of the Taiwan pilots. He says, when I die, my folded wing will turn into a bit of a smoke at the far end of the sky. Motherland, my motherland, I have given my loyal soul. Thank you.